Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're taking a look at IOTA, which is IOTA, and obviously this is a request from my community members. Thank you to my patrons for asking that I cover this here today. I always like to make videos like this for you to ensure that you stay in the know and we can, minimize any potential loss and maximize our gains. So obviously I'm not a financial advisor. If you're new to the channel, this is for educational purposes only. You should always do your own research, make sure that you take confidence in your own trades by learning as much as you can and own what you're doing. Of course, don't rely on other people. So my goal is to help you become more of an independent trader and obviously be more self-sufficient so you can trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. I do also have an opportunity where I share all of my trades with my community members. Link in the description below for that. That is actually a fantastic opportunity. I train about 80% success rate overall for my trades, and I provide you with entry points, sell targets, profit targets, everything you need to know. It's essentially a signal group that I send out weekly. What's great too also is I also now have swing trades and hodl trades as well. So it's not just day trading. So it's a lot of fun there. We have a good time. Check that out in your own time, of course. And without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and get to the charts? Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at IOTA. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on, just so you can stay well informed and making a better, more educated decision on your investment. Because Bitcoin, it's been making some moves recently, and these moves have caused a lot of other altcoins to kind of spike and take off, which is excellent. So thank you again to my community members for asking that I cover this. And just to clarify, before we jump in, I use TradingView.com desktop application. It is essentially the paid version. I recommend that over obviously the non-paid versions, just simply because they provide you with more than 2 indicators present at any given time, and you kind of need that in order to be able to utilize this correctly. So follow along, of course, but I have a link in the description below if you'd like to consider that. It's for a free month. You can see if you like it, of course. Regardless, this is Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart, and just some things to note here. We've got the 50-day simple moving average. The price is above that now, which is great, no longer working as a resistance, and the 200, of course, is trailing behind. We have a major support level down here at about 44,000 still, as well as 46,800. That worked to be a very, very strong support level for us, and it worked out really well. But keep this in mind, we have the price right now tentatively above 50,000. Now I say tentative because the fact that any good trader will understand this, you have to look at the one-day chart to really, truly note what is the most important here. And what I mean by that is just the industry leaders, everything, everyone that controls the market, essentially the whales. The one-day chart is kind of the end-all be-all when it comes to that, and you have to wait for the one-day chart, the candlestick on the one-day chart to close above that resistance or support level to essentially become or to be a support or resistance level. So what I'm getting at here is that we have 50,000 as a resistance level. It's been resistance for a while. However, it's testing it right now. It hasn't closed above yet. We have right around 10 hours left in this trading cycle. So if this candlestick at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or whatever time it is where you're at, when that candlestick closes and creates a new one, if this is above 50,000, then it's considered a support level, and that we can use that as a support moving forward. Okay, because as you can see down here, 46,800 was a major support level that was tested multiple times, but the one-day chart never closed below that level, right? So it consistently held. That made it a support level. Same thing here as well. Until this closes above, it's considered to be a resistance. So for the next 10 hours of trading, we got to honor that resistance level and make sure that we don't trade into it until we have confirmation. Okay, so just something to note there for the for Bitcoin, of course, but on the 4-hour chart, all good things here for Bitcoin. I believe we also had a convergence on the MACD as well, which is obviously why we saw a lot of increase here in the last 24 hours. I think that was about a 5% increase overall. Now, speaking of increase, Ethereum, if I'm not mistaken, was closer to about 10%, correction, 15% in the last 24 to 48 hours of trading. So Ethereum's taking off here. And what's probably happening is, when Bitcoin was going sideways, a whole lot of sideways action, a lot more people transition into Ethereum as a primary coin, right? Because it's the second largest coin in the industry. So Ethereum usually absorbs a lot of the fallout from Bitcoin when people are not confident in Bitcoin's price movement. But what's happening now with Ethereum is all that price movement occurred. However, the price jumped up here as well because Bitcoin increased. So it's kind of like a 2 or 3x situation here, because just the natural law of how trading works when people migrate, and then of course the hype train continues, and then everyone else is like, oh, Ethereum's taken off, I'll jump in there as well. So that's kind of what's going on here with Ethereum. It blasted through its resistance of 35.50. It was testing that a couple of times, then took off. And previous support now, of course, previous resistance now support 32.50. Okay, so we got 32.50 and 35.50 as some major support and resistance levels, or correction, now major support levels, previous resistances. And also, obviously, the 50 and the 200 are traveling behind, which is great. They're both considered to be support levels. So at this point, Ethereum is likely to start, trending towards its previous all-time high. The next major resistance is going to be approximately 41.50. Okay, so it's already halfway there. We'll see what happens here soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum does break that, especially if Bitcoin, surpasses 50,000, stays above 50,000, starts making a way towards 60. It's going to be an easy no-brainer for Ethereum to take off as well. All right, so moving on to IOTA. Let's go ahead and take a look at the one-day chart. So just to quickly note here for the one-day chart, obviously, the price is above the 50, but it's trying to break through the 200 as well. And when I say trying to, again, same rule applies. Until this candlestick closes above the 200, it is not considered to be a support level yet. All right, so this 200 is still technically a resistance, even though it does seem very likely that it'll close above. That doesn't always matter because oftentimes, in crypto, when the price increases this high, this quickly, in other words, in this, we're only about 14 hours into this trading cycle, it's up 32%. So when it goes up that high, that quick, in that short amount of time, the likelihood of a retracement is very high. In other words, it should retrace some, if not traditional 50% or more. Okay, so normally 50% is about the case in point where the price will retrace with this kind of increase. Obviously, IOTA's got some good fundamentals and it has done well in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if it just stays above the 200 right now. But just know, kind of mentally here, I would say that $1.29 is approximately a support level at this point until the one-day chart closes. Okay, so it's likely if it comes back down, it'll come back down to that level and hold. Also, further note as well, we've got some previous resistance levels. Let's go ahead and mark that. The most recent high would be 135. So, sorry, 139. No, 138.5, but we can run up and say 139, and that would essentially be the most recent support level. Okay, so we've got a couple of different supports here that are likely going to be working their way in. But another thing to note too for IOTA, if we look at the price action before April 17th, which is this guy right here, this fallout here was pretty standard for a lot of coins. So honestly, at this point, with IOTA doing really well, it was at $1.07 upwards of 260. That price range there, the average true range that it has, is very good. In other words, it basically means that we're going to probably see the price increase further from IOTA. It may not happen today. It probably needs to calm down and go sideways for a little bit. At least I'd prefer to see that. But big picture, you need to understand that IOTA has a lot more potential than it's showing right now. Excuse me. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the one-day MACD. Obviously, we have a convergence on the MACD right now, which is fantastic. Another good sign to go long. That is traditionally a good sign to do so, because if you see the last time we saw that, it was back here, obviously, when Bitcoin was at 30,000. That was another MACD convergence on the one-day chart. To give you perspective, it's moved up a lot since then. So what I'd recommend doing, and again, this is just my I'm more safe than sorry. I like to wait for support levels to be tested and then to buy the dip in that sense. So hypothetically, we wait for the price to come down to $1.38 and bounce, and then add to our position. Or just take a position if you don't have one already, because we can see that IOTA has done very well in the past when Bitcoin continues to trend positively. Okay, so this here, right here, this is between 50 and 64,000 for Bitcoin. This right now is at 50,000 for Bitcoin. So if you kind of get that perspective, there's a great chance that we're going to see that same ramp up here. It may not happen right away, but it will happen probably within the next couple of months. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 4-hour chart. Take a quick look here. Price is above both 50 and the 200-day simple moving average. We've got the MACD, of course, as well, that didn't quite converge, but it didn't need to because it was already above. So we'll mark that August 31st at 2100. So right here, we got a convergence, so to speak, on the MACD. RSI also is well above 70, so that's another reason why I might say to recommend waiting to add to your position, because the likelihood of it continuing upwards as it is right now is fairly low in that sense. But we do have a nice little staircase pattern here. Again, it's getting shorter as it goes up, so I'm speculating we're going to see some price, come down and bounce off that support level and continue moving forward. Okay. So just bear in mind, IOTA is definitely a little bit on the maxed out side. I mean, we can even pull up TD sequential here. We're at an 8 out of 9. So at best, I think we have one more candlestick worth of continuation in this bull trend, this bull market. But again, I'm fairly confident we're going to see the price go sideways for a little bit, kind of relax here on this line, and then come back up. Because again, this is the most recent high. We got to respect that as a support level. But again, it hasn't been established as a support level yet for one reason, obviously, because again, the one-day chart hasn't closed yet. So just keep in mind, this is a tentative support level, but it is very likely to establish itself as a support. Another thing we could do too here as well is go ahead and take a quick look at the Fibonacci retracement. So we find the lowest, most recent points. As you can see, that support level is very close, and there's also others here as well. So what we could do, we could go ahead and mark right here as well, kind of right around the center point. Again, right about 129. All right, so 129 and 139 are two very good close approximate support levels for IOTA. All right, let's go and take a look at the 1 hour chart here and kind of identify the Ishimoku cloud. And what do you know? Big surprise, as soon as the price broke above the cloud, we had a MACD convergence in the 4 hour chart. So if you're new to the channel or just trading in general, do yourself a favor, pay attention to the MACD on the 4 hour chart, wait for a convergence where you see that the line, the quicker line, the faster line on the bottom intersect in an upward fashion with the 26. It's basically a 12-day exponential moving average intersecting with these 26-day exponential moving average. Sorry, I can't speak today. They're exponential moving averages, or EMA lines, and they're essentially, when they ascend in an upward fashion, essentially, it creates a convergence, and that's referred to as a MACD, bearish convergence. It takes the momentum and it's shifting. So if you look here, this is what a convergence looks like. You see where the bears are conceding and the bulls are taking control. It's right then and there that you want to consider taking entry, more specifically on the 4 hour chart. And then if you look at the 1 hour chart and you turn on the Ishimoku cloud, you can see here the price just broke above, and that would have been a good buy signal anywhere in here. Okay. So future reference, you see a break above the 1 hour chart on the cloud. It's commonly a good buy signal, and it's just something to kind of pay attention to. Another thing we want to look at here is TD sequential. Again, we're at an 8 here as well, so our momentum is kind of peaking out. We will probably see some sideways action or retracement here soon from IOTA. Doesn't mean it's done for sure, but I would say it's going to need to do one of these here, right? So if you see this little increase in sideways, you see we count up to a 9 and it starts calming down again. We want to see the same thing here as well in order for this to kind of stable out. Because if it keeps trying to go up, then it'll crash and come back down. It'll be harder to trade. It'll be a lot more challenging, so to speak, to find a good entry point. So we want to see this continuation here. Looking at the 50-minute chart, let's go ahead and wrap this up here and just take a quick look at EMA and VWAP. And these are my two favorite indicators. I use these on shorter time frames. You should only use them on 50-minute time frames or shorter. And what they are is they're essentially exponential moving averages and obviously the VWAP. So if you're not familiar with this, the VWAP is this blue line here. That's the volume weighted average price. When the price is above it, it works as a support level. When it's below, it's considered resistance. Furthermore, we have the EMA line, the red line here. When the price is above, it's considered bullish, and when it's below, it's considered a bearish sentiment. So as you can see here, every time the price comes down and tries to break, the VWAP and the EMA hold the price in check. So this could very well happen again here soon. Again, but we are very overextended. So if we take a look at this here, and we see the price difference from the lowest point to the highest point, we're looking at approximately 13%. And that basically just means we have a standard deviation of over 10%. When the price gets that far away from the VWAP, it is essentially considered to be overextended, and it'll probably come back down. So we should expect to see this price come down here, at least test the EMA and or the support level of 139. And if we lose both of those, which is perfectly fine and normal, it'll come down and test the VWAP line somewhere in the range of 133 to 136. Because again, this will slowly keep trending upwards. Okay, because the VWAP is awesome. It's a volume weighted average price. It takes the volume last 24 hours and expresses it as a price. So right now, technically, based on the volume, the price should be $1.33, whereas it's upwards of $1.42. Okay, so that's again a variance of somewhere in the range of 10%. It's too high, it's going to come back down. So if you're planning to take entry on IOTA, recommend waiting for the price to break below EMA, test this support level 139. If that loses, it'll probably work itself into a channel between 120. What was that? It was 123 and 139. So it'll probably work itself into a channel here if we lose this support. But just kind of pay attention to how that works. Also, furthermore, note as well that this does have a lot more room for growth. Okay, so if you get in now and the price goes down, it's not the end of the world. It'll probably continue upwards eventually. Again, pending Bitcoin doesn't tank and just get hardcore rejected at 50,000. It does feel like Bitcoin's a little on the overextended side right now, of course, as well, and it's kind of testing the waters at 50,000. We need to make sure that one-day chart candle closes at 50 or higher in order to feel comfortable with all the altcoins essentially for the most part, because if Bitcoin does shoot down to 47 or 44,000, the next major support levels, then we're going to see something like this retrace significantly, probably down to at least 123, if not lower. Again, I think that the likelihood is that's pretty low, just based on the history and where Bitcoin's been channeling itself into. I do think Bitcoin's ready to break out and to make a run towards 60, 70,000. But again, we don't know until those candlesticks close and we have a little bit more confidence. So just be aware of that, be careful. I would say, perhaps, again, be patient in this case and try to wait until that one-day candlestick closes at, again, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and or whatever time zone you're in. You'll see when that candlestick closes. And if it closes above 50, then I would say it's fairly safe to presume that we can have some more range of motion above 50,000, and these altcoins will probably have more confidence and continue to take off. So if you do like this, of course, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Reference my Patreon account as well, because this is the best time to jump in. I do share all my trades with my community members. Link in the description below for that, but we found great benefit. A lot of us are working very well together, and it's basically an 80% success rate too. So from start to finish, we've been able to trend at 80% success for all the trades taken. Some weeks are heavier, some weeks are lighter, just depending on how Bitcoin behaves. But for the most part, that's kind of what we're looking at there. Take a look at that at your own time. But thank you so much again for joining me here today. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.